shoulder muscle, which the Jets didn't disclose and got fined for it. And you look at 2010 of his last year at the Vikings. And that year he was about done. And I feel bad that that's the way his career ended, such a legend. But, hey, all great things must come to an end. And Unitas' career ended kind of sour, too, because he had been hit so hard so often in his career, it took its toll on him. Short term, he could take those hits and not have to worry about it. Long term, they always affected him, and I feel bad for him. But if I'm going to pick one of these two quarterbacks right here, there's no doubt in my mind I'm picking Johnny U, and here's the reason why. Because he's the father of the position, because he's vetted so many things that we go along with today, and in my opinion, the reason why he's not given near enough credit is because of the numbers, and he's got more interceptions and a lower completion percentage than quarterbacks of today. I mean, his numbers would pale in comparison to Drew Brees. I mean, statistically on paper, one Super Bowl win for both of them and Brees with more numbers, you'd think Brees was better. No way. Unitas was so good at the end of games. Again, the 2 comeback drives in the championship game against the Giants, the 3 MVP seasons he had where he was easily the best quarterback in football by a wide margin, and how he handled the rules of the 60s and 50s so well, where the receivers could get mugged up the field. And he didn't have any big play receivers on the edge. He didn't have a guy like a Randy Moss or a Jerry Rice or even a Desmond Howard or a, any of those guys. Now, I know he had some Hall of Famers on his offense, such as, Jim Parker, such as Raymond Berry, John Mackey, Lenny Moore. He had some Hall of Famers on the offense, but think about it. None of those guys were big play receivers. Berry had great hands. Lenny Moore was a hybrid. And John Mackey was more like a bulldozer. But, again, those guys had short primes anyway. So long term throughout his career, Unitas had to do a lot of this himself, and he was so good at it. So that's why when you break it down, you go with Unitas. Which leaves me with the quarterback matchup that I think, in my opinion, is definitely the matchup of who's the greatest of all time. John Unitas versus Joe Montana. If you were to do a poll of football fans and football historians on who was the greatest quarterback of all time between these two, you get a very different answer. Most football fans would be like probably 70-30 or 65-35 Montana over Unitas because of the 4 rings and Montana being the quarterback for the Niners, the golden era that they had in the 80s and early 90s. But if you look at historians, they're probably going to be 50-50. If you look at all the lists that have been done in NFL history of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, it's either Montana or Unitas at number 1 and 2. There's no guy in that mix. NFL.com did a top 10 one time of quarterbacks. It was like one of their end of show ones. It wasn't an official one. And they had Unitas number 1, Montana number 2. In 99, the Sporting News did a list of the 100 greatest players, and he was second behind Montana. But in 2004, the Sporting News did the 50 greatest quarterbacks and ranked Unitas 1 and Montana number 2. And in 1999 Sports Century, they did the 50 greatest athletes of the 20th century, and they had Unitas number 32. So you look at those records, and then you look at Montana. Montana's numbers blow Unitas' out of the water. He doesn't have many touchdowns, but he's got far fewer picks, slightly more yards than Unitas does. His completion percentage is much better, and his pass rating is better. But again, Montana's running that dink and dunk West Coast offense half the time, and he is, again, Jerry Rice catches it 5, 6, 7 yards down the field, takes it 40. John Taylor did the same. Now, Montana could throw the deep ball, and I'll give him that. He could throw it very well. But you look at what Unitas was doing. He wasn't doing that dink and dunk. He was calling the game. He literally was calling the game on offense. Montana had to go to seek approval from Bill Walsh to do anything, or George Seifert, whoever's the coach, or even I believe Marty Schottenheimer when he was in Kansas City. But Unitas ran his own game when he was a member of the Colts. He was the de facto Colt on that football team. Like, there was him, and in terms of his importance to the team, there's everybody else. Montana, you got to admit that Jerry Rice, Ronnie Lott were as pivotal to that team's success as he was. And you look at it, Ronnie Lott is easily the greatest safety of all time, in my opinion, strong safety. And you look at Jerry Rice, who is like ridiculously, absurdly ahead of everybody else in NFL history as a receiver. And Montana, his ranking is 1 to 2 depending on your opinion of him. So on that team, he's not even the best at his position in history on his own team. Because Rice is a better receiver than he was a quarterback, and Lott was a better safety. But John Unitas was clearly the de facto player on his team, easily, because now for all Unitas's strengths, there's a drawback. He has 3 titles to his name, 2 NFL championships, and a Super Bowl. Montana's got 4 Super Bowl wins. Now, Unitas did lose an NFL title in 1964 to the Cleveland Browns, and people want to say he lost the Super Bowl to the Jets. Earl Morrall lost that game. And John Unitas, had he been put in at the beginning of the game, I think the Colts could have very easily pulled off that upset. Because Unitas led him to a touchdown and almost led him to another before the game ended. So, if anything, that's a fault of his, that there were some games he fell short. And again, Montana, I would look at one detracting thing about Montana is that he was frail in his career. I mean, he took some hits that were big, but you look at the hits he took compared to the shots that Unitas took. Unitas took so many. You don't see people praising Montana for his toughness. You see people left and right praising Unitas for his toughness, and how when they talk about the toughest quarterbacks in NFL history, they often bring up Brett Favre, they bring up Ben Roethlisberger, these big mountains of men that were just incredibly strong. John Unitas was 6 feet 190 his whole career, and he got popped so many times, and yet he just got right back up. Montana has been knocked out of some games, and there were some games where he got hit a few times and looked really slow. One exception to the rule was the 89 game against the Eagles, where he threw 4 touchdowns in the fourth quarter after pretty much being dead at halftime. It was like Freddy Krueger's eyelids fluttered open, more or less. But, these two are so close. You can toss a coin and you can make an argument for either one of them if you wanted to. But if I wanted one guy to run my football team, I'm taking the guy who invented the position. The guy who really made the position what it was. And I'm taking Johnny U. I believe in my heart and in my head that Johnny U is the greatest quarterback of all time. He's got that mystique aura to him that none of these other guys in this bracket have. He's got that winner's mentality. The fact that he was so good. He's the only number, I believe, retired by the University of Louisville. It's number 16. And his story, playing semi-pro to getting a workout with the Colts after getting drafted in late and cut by the Steelers, getting a chance to enter when George Shaw got hurt, and just the 47-game touchdown streak, the 3 titles, the 2 in a row in 58 and 59, the comebacks in the 58 title game, 2 winning drives. Unitas, in my opinion, exemplifies what a quarterback should be more than anybody in league history. Montana, again, could be kind of frail at times. You look at these other guys. Brady, sometimes he can get rattled pretty easily by a little bit of pressure up the middle. Brett Favre was stupid. Unitas, on the other hand, he took it all in stride. He's easily the greatest quarterback of the baby boomers bracket. Much better than the guys Bradshaw, Starr, Graham, Namath. And the only competition I see him having in this bracket is Joe Montana. I would right now be very confident saying that if you gave Joe Montana and John Unitas the same team and had them run the same offense, everything the same, Unitas would win more games than Montana because he calls plays, he puts people in a better position, and his complete and total selflessness as a human being that he didn't care about his records. He just wanted to win football games. And that's what makes a quarterback a quarterback. All right, that does it for me for tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll be sure to stay tuned because I'll be talking about the NCAA tournament soon because we're approaching the Final Four and the national championship game. The Masters Sony Open in Miami is coming to a head at the end of this week. The Sunday is the final. I'll be talking about that and also be previewing who I think will make it. And also, I might be doing some more football stuff, so stay tuned.